I do talk about wrestling here on this channel, and the biggest story, not just of the past week, but probably the biggest story in 20 something years, is the resignation and retirement of Vince McMahon. Now, before I go into my thoughts on it and what's been going on, I want to invite you to check the link in the comments, in the description, for the K-Fabulous Lucha Brothers Wrestling podcast that I have. If you're wondering about like my wrestling opinions, I do have a show where I review old shows and discuss what's going on in wrestling with Brandon Draven called the K-Fabulous Lucha Brothers. It's on Apple Podcasts, so I'll leave a link down below for you to check out the latest episode where we did talk about Vince McMahon. We actually did the episode on Friday, right like hours after the news had come out during SmackDown. So the WWE has never been without Vince McMahon. You know what I mean? When Vince bought the company from his father in '82, it was worldwide. Well, at that point it was World Wrestling Federation, but before it was WWF, and then of course you have Capital Wrestling. But when it comes to this modern era, you know, you can call it the Hulk Hogan era and beyond, where the WWF was the biggest company, Vince McMahon was always there, and now he's gone. And we hear that Triple H is now the head of creative. Stephanie and Nick Khan are co-CEOs. Now, doing the co-CEO thing is very risky, because without having one person to actually make the decision, you could have a clash of opinions. So there could be a power struggle going on. Now, I have a little bit of a mixed opinion about Vince retiring. The thing is, first of all, there definitely has to be some serious allegation that hasn't been revealed yet. And it's slowly getting revealed, but there has to be something for Vince to have retired, because many people thought that he would just stay there and work there as the head of creative for the rest of his life. But he's not. So something happened. Something behind the scenes happened, and obviously most of us are curious about what that is, because it would take a lot to get this man to straight up not be a part of his own company. No matter what, Vince McMahon is a success story. Yes, there is a lot of shady actions by Vince McMahon throughout the years. He put a lot of people out of business, but he also took his company from a $1 million company to a $5 or more billion company. And that is something that people need to respect and look at and say, damn, like this dude really made it. He is a success story. I mean, and then not to mention that the WWE was a couple times close to closing down, specifically in the mid-90s when Nitro was destroying them. There was a very brief time there where the company was in deep financial problems. And even before that, the steroid trial and the allegations of misconduct on children and all that stuff really, really could have taken the company down, and Vince fought through it all. But nowadays, we live in a different world. The society is different now. Opinions are different. The Me Too movement and Harvey Weinstein's situation have changed things, and the power of social media is something that's really important compared to the early 90s. So either way, most of the time when something like this happens, the celebrity in question will just stay quiet, not say anything, and wait for it to pass, because new news will appear and, take up time. Vince, on the other hand, straight up just retired, which tells me there's something more. On top of that, John Laurinaitis has resigned as the head of talent relations, and there's rumors of Kevin Dunn also leaving. So we are in the middle of the biggest transitional period in the history of that company. Since, I guess, he bought it from his dad. But even that was different because Vince had already worked there for a long time. But he didn't buy it from his dad. And it's a big story. It is a huge story. Now, when it comes to Triple H being the head of creative, I'm okay with that, because the way that he ran NXT from 2013 or whatever, 2012, all the way to like 2021 when they rebranded it, or 2022. No, it was 2021. Yeah, it was last year. Obviously that product of NXT was targeted towards the more hardcore wrestling fan, right? But it was good. Like, whether or not you're a hardcore or a casual, the NXT product, especially around 2017, 2018, 2019, was really good. They had a lot of great workers, many of which are now in AEW. They had characters. People were over. It was glorious. I mean, I love 2019 NXT. So Triple H being involved as the head of creative, I like it because it means we might get some fresh ideas. WWE might go back to being more of a wrestling focused product where they're not afraid to use the word wrestling. It's treated like a sport. There'll always be some shenanigans, but it's treated more like a sport. And some of the characters that WWE introduces or they bring in, they're going to be a plan. Because you have to remember, Triple H is the guy who always had a plan. Like his whole thing, I remember years ago when Bray Wyatt first went up to the main roster, is he wanted to make sure that Bray Wyatt had at least a few months of angles planned so that he knew what he was going to do. And that's great. Vince McMahon used to be like that, but in recent years, usually the past like 15, 20 years, he changes his mind a lot to the point where there have been numerous reports that they have Monday Night Raw written on Friday. Thursday and Friday, they write the next week's Monday Night Raw. And the day of Raw, that Monday, Vince rips up the script and starts over again. And that's bad. Sometimes you have to do that, obviously, under certain circumstances, but not the way he does it. And so Triple H will hopefully be a better planner for the future. However, it's going to be interesting to see how the company is without Vince because a lot of the older talent are loyal to Vince. Not to Triple H and Stephanie, not to Nick Khan, not to WWE, to Vince. Chris Jericho is very close to Vince McMahon. Brock Lesnar, who allegedly walked out on SmackDown, he's close to Vince. That's just two guys. Big stars. So, with those guys being connected to Vince McMahon, Steve Austin, even The Rock, like, they worked under Vince McMahon. That's the guy who they consider, one of the major reasons to why they're even millionaires, multimillionaires. So if Vince is not there, is there going to be an ego clash between Brock and Triple H or Roman Reigns? You have to also understand that the McMahons and the Samoan family, Alpha, Sika, The Rock, Roman Reigns, the Usos, the Head Shrinkers, all those guys are all related. Yokozuna. Like, they've been so connected to the McMahons. First Vince Sr. and now Vincent K. McMahon. And for him to be gone, I feel like a lot of those ties to the past might end up being gone. So Triple H is going to have to establish new relationships with these legends. And I think that he will. He was the one that brought Bruno back to the fold, so I think that he will. So I'm excited to see where WWE goes. Raw on Monday was still Raw, but it definitely had a better flow to it than it normally does. And I hope that the new Triple H era is going to make the company better. We might see some of those AEW guys that were former NXT guys who were under Triple H, like your Adam Coles and Red Dragon, because they got pushed under Triple H. Maybe at some point coming back to WWE from AEW. When Cody jumped back, that was the first time that the drawbridge was open for talent to jump back. And a lot of those NXT guys, they're Triple H's boys, right? So that could lead to NXT, those guys coming back and actually being major players. Remember, Triple H pushed smaller guys in NXT. The main roster, not so much. That was never Vince's thing. But Triple H, on the other hand, respects the athletes because unlike Vince, even though Vince has had matches, Triple H was a full-time wrestler. He was on the road. He took his bumps and bruises. Unlike Vince, who also got beat up and was also on the road, but not to the same degree as an active talent. Especially back in the day when you'd work 7 days a week for WWE doing house shows. Not so much now, but that's how it was back in the day. There was a very hard grind to always be on the road. And it's a big story, yo. It is a huge story. So those are my thoughts on the WWE changing the guard. I'm optimistic, but I'm also cautious because where is this really going to go? Hopefully in a good direction, in a better direction, but that remains to be seen. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, and we'll talk soon. Don't forget to listen to KLB about Vince because I go into a lot of detail there, more than on this video. Thanks. Have a great one.